We will call the meeting of the Clarkson Independence District Library to order at 6:06. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. It's hiding. Miss Meredith, would you call the roll, please?
Michelle Jen. Here. Mary Himberg. Here. Erin Makarian absent. Elsie McFadden Kiesling. Here. Jean Molson. Here. Marilyn Pomeroy.
Here.
Kate Robertson. Here. Julie Meredith here.
I'll entertain a vote to approve this evening's agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded that the agenda be approved as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We at this time have a call to the public. If there's any public member who wishes to address the board.
Just a quick thing. I know you guys have a lot on your plate. Good job. Everybody's been working really hard, and I've been following you. I think it's all really wonderful, and the friends are still interested in helping out, but we're going to wait until the dust settles from your transition from the old year to the new year. So I'll be back at a January meeting, and then we can maybe talk some about what the friends can do to help. Happy holidays to all of you.
Thank you
very much.
Tonight is a public hearing on the budget, and it is opening at 6:08. So if there are any comments on the 2013 budget, this is the moment.
And I'll pass on that.
No comments. The public hearing will close at 6:09. I'll accept a motion at this time for approval of the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Who's second?
A little first there. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is approved. Next is the library director's report. There should be a copy of that.
I'll go over it just briefly. An update on the roof and the HVAC. Originally, the HVAC ductwork and roofing projects were going to happen in tandem in a three-phase schedule. Phase 1 being the new ductwork being installed, Phase 2 would be the new roof, and then Phase 3 would be to insulate the ductwork. We completed Phase 1 on December 12th. Unfortunately, the roofing company will be unable to work on the roof until sometime in January. Contrast Mechanical, the HVAC contractor, is concerned about leaving the ductwork in a partially completed state for such an extended period of time for fear it will be damaged by winter weather. So after discussions with Contrast Mechanical and Bloom Roofing and Linda Richardson, who is the DPW director, and she's coordinating the project on behalf of the township, Linda and I have decided that it's most prudent to instruct Contrast Mechanical to complete the HVAC ductwork, and then the roofing project will proceed based on the roofer schedule and weather conditions. This does put the roofer in the position of being responsible for any damage that they do to the ductwork as they lift it and roof underneath it. But that was written into the contract, and Linda and I will inspect it carefully before the check is released to ensure that they haven't damaged it. And if they have damaged it, they will be responsible for paying to repair it. And then it will be up to Linda to release the check at that time.
So is she going to be the inspector?
No, the inspectors will come, but she and I will go up there and make sure we're satisfied as well.
Okay,
So,
excellent.
yeah. The regular inspectors will come, but it's really up to her to determine whether or not we're satisfied. And then just a staffing update. I've been giving you updates on our head of adult services, and he did resign to relocate out of state. And there is a request to post a position on this evening's agenda, so we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then just an update on New Year's Eve at the November 9th meeting. Evan did ask me to look into what staffing or what traffic levels were like on New Year's Eve. I did go back in and look at that because I proposed closing at 6, and he had said, well, would it be more beneficial just to close for the whole day, but it's not really all that busy. So using the people counter, the library's entrance, we capture average number of visitors per hour. Over the past few years, we've averaged approximately 35 to 40 patrons per hour on New Year's Eve. The days between Christmas and New Year's tend to average between 32 and 48 visitors per hour. And then if you look over the past few years, our annual hourly averages are between 55 and 63 patrons per hour. So it's low, but it's not
Really low.
It's not a situation where we're getting 12 people an hour or something
Yeah.
like that. It's busy enough to warrant staying open. And the other thing, upon closer inspection, I had forgotten about this when we talked about it last month, but I didn't recommend closing on New Year's Eve because the other problem that it creates, we're closed on Sunday, so now we would be closed Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and when you have a 3-day closure, the book drop fills up really fast, and it creates this incredible workload on the day we reopen. And despite the fact that the staff might enjoy having that day off, a lot of us have found that it's not really worth it with the workload on the day we reopen, because they'd almost rather work that day and not be completely buried the day we come back, because we'll also be trafficky on that first day back too, in terms of patrons coming in. So I just wanted to give an update that I think we made the right choice, and these are the reasons why.
Okay. So in that case, let us move to new business. First item, the review of the fiscal agency agreement with the township.
Essentially, we had talked about, at the recommendation of library's fiscal consultant, we had talked about maintaining our fiscal agency agreement with the township until June 30th of 2012. And I did approach the township treasurer and the township finance director, and they gave me an estimate. It's a very brief memo, and the treasurer I thought was going to be here tonight to answer questions. But essentially what they're proposing is they will do an hourly billing schedule. They'll calculate out the actual amount of time it takes to do the work that needs to be done. But they would put a cap on it not to exceed $600 per month as a monthly fee. And that would cover, I'm telling you the right things here, the maintenance of the general ledger, cash management services, and accounts payable. And the township treasurer did say that investing he would do and not charge us for that because our accounts are pretty minimal in comparison to ways managing on behalf of the township. So this would be the agreement that would be in place until June 30th, and between now and June 30th, we could work with Kathy Smith-Roy and see if this is what we want to continue to do, or if we want to look into other options and make a decision on that.
Okay, are there any questions about this?
The scope of services not to exceed 600, so it's not a definite amount. It'll be based on how much they do each month.
Originally, what she had told me was, what they had originally suggested when I went to the meeting was they would just charge us $500 a month. And then when they started actually looking at how many accounts payable checks are in the run, some months we have 15 and some months we have 5. And essentially what they were determining was, when they calculated out $500, that would be an accounts payable person twice a month working for an 8-hour shift. And she said that's not really realistic for us. In most cases, it probably wouldn't take her all day to do our minimal check run. So they were saying instead of charging us a flat $500, they're thinking there would be months that would be less than $500, and then months like at the end of the year when they have to do year end where it would cap out at $600. So
A little hard to budget though.
I just calculated out $600 per month for the entire, for 6 months. For 6 months, yep. And then $500 per month for the rest of the year, and then we can figure it out from there. And if we have to make a budget adjustment, we can do that at the
All right, any other questions or comments? If not, I'll accept a motion.
I move to approve the extension of the fiscal agency agreement with the Charter Township of Independence until June 30th, 2013, as presented.
Second. Nope.
Okay,
Which one is it?
We have to pick one.
All right, are there any questions or other comments about this recommendation? I just want to say thank you. I know it's been several meetings with the township to work this out, so thank you very much, Director, for doing that. All right, those in favor of accepting this fiscal agency agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Okay, number 2. The review and approval of the budget for 2013.
We've had several budget workshops, and I'm almost inclined to have you present the budget to me at this point, because you've all seen it so many times. But we will go over it on the first page of the budget, and we've all seen this before. This is a review of our revenues. It's our 2012 revenues and our 2013 estimated revenues based on interim funding. We're seeing a slight drop in our millage rate. And that is, we had talked a little bit about the fact that there are still some properties within the township that are dropping a little bit. The residential properties are starting to stabilize, and 90% of the properties in Independence Township are residential, but we're still seeing some commercial and industrial doing a little bit of drops. We are losing a little bit of funding there. Because of that drop in industrial, commercial and industrial, we are seeing a reduction in how much is being captured for the Corridor Improvement Authority. State aid is staying about the same. The contract with the city is dropping slightly. That's because they're still seeing some dropping in the property values in the city. And their contract is based on the total taxable value for the city of Village of Clarkston times the millage rate. So they're paying the same rate that township residents are paying. But their contract is dropping a little bit because of the taxable values going down a little bit. Penal fines is interesting. Penal fines is a proportion of money that we get, essentially for traffic tickets and things like that. It's written in the state's constitution. That number has been dropping by about $2,000 per year for the past several years, and then in 2012 we got the check, and it was almost $10,000 more than last year, and also almost $10,000 more than I budgeted. We got a little bit of extra money there. I was not brave enough to raise it significantly in my estimate, so I put it at $40,000, even though what we collected this year was more than that. It was closer to 48. Fines and fees, that's absolutely impossible to guess. We just kind of do it based on history because we can never guesstimate how responsible people are going to be with getting their materials back. But that money is, that line in the budget is an estimate of people returning the materials late and replacement costs. Duplicating and photocopying is just what it sounds like. Printers and copiers in the building, that's another one that's kind of hard to guesstimate, so we just do it based on past history. Interest is another one that I talked to the township treasurer about, and he estimated that we should lower ours a little bit, so we did. E-rate is pretty stable. E-rate is a grant that helps fund our broadband internet for the public. It comes from the federal government, and it is 40% returned for the amount that we pay for our internet fees, and it does come as a check. An actual one-time check, and usually it used to come in July, but I believe we just got it. They're a little behind this year, but it's about $5,000. And then in 2012, we had a contribution from the general fund. We won't have that this year. And then last year, for 2012, we did move some money from the fund balance to pay the legal fees in order to reestablish the library. Obviously, we won't be doing that this year. So when you get down to it, based on the 2012 budget and the 2013 budget, we're about $104,000, almost $105,000 less than 2012. So what I did in this next part is I split our budget into two parts. The top half of the budget, when I write it out, is employee costs, and the bottom half of the budget is the operating costs. So just to go over this quickly, where you're going to see changes in 2013, we are eliminating a full-time position. We have an employee who is retiring. We will not replace that employee. We simply can't afford to. We did raise part-time a little bit in order to make up for that. Obviously, we are going to need the work done. You're seeing a big drop in terms of health insurance, and that is because the state has mandated caps on how much the employer is allowed to pay for health insurance. That means that the employees are paying more for health care, That did save us a significant amount of money though, so you're seeing a big drop there. And we have a couple of small changes. We have some things that kind of shifted around. Workers' comp is a little bit more expensive. That's an insurance that has gone up a little bit, but then disability and long-term, we were able to negotiate some better costs on that. So that kind of evened out in the long run. We saved a few dollars here and just spending a few dollars there. But overall, we're down about $53,000 from last year out of this portion of the budget. So that's about half of what we needed to cut. And then going into the next section of the budget, subscriptions is what it sounds like, magazine subscriptions, electronic subscriptions, that sort of thing. That's stayed pretty stable. We haven't made a lot of cuts in that area. Operating supplies, I had to raise a little bit. We've actually made 2 budget adjustments this year. Operating supplies, where we're having some problems, is it's hard to estimate how much paper are we going to use, how much toner are we going to use. And this last year, we had tried to cut over the course of the last several years, and this year we cut it so low, it didn't work for us. We had to put some money back in that account. Audit fees are a little bit more. This will be the first year that we're doing an independent audit, but the township is offering us the opportunity. They will do their full audit, and then we will tack on as a smaller secondary audit as long as we use the same auditor that they're using. They estimated that $5,000 would be enough for our audit. If we did it completely on our own and bid it out completely separately, it would be $10,000. So it's very generous of them to allow us to tag along with them. Professional and contract services has gone up. That's where we pay for the fiscal agency agreement and the payroll. And that used to come out of administrative fees at the bottom of the budget. That was the $55,000 that we used to pay the township. And so we've only really raised that by about $10,000, but we've eliminated that $55,000 in administrative fees. So about $40,000 in savings there. Special events, that's program budget. We did reduce that a bit. The Friends of the Library have stepped up, and they're funding a lot of that for us this year, and a couple of other community organizations have offered to help us to do more events for kids. So I felt safe in making some reductions there without really being detrimental to the public. Telephone, obviously we just go from year to year. Printing and publishing, that's our newsletter. Our newsletter is very economical. We do that through the Parks and Rec magazine, and we pay for, essentially what we're paying for in their eyes is a 4-page ad. But really what we're getting is a 4-page newsletter, and then they overrun by about 500 for us, so we have additional copies we can have in the building. So it ends up costing us, depending on how many we get in overrun, about $1,200 to $2,000 per run. We do this 3 times a year. I went out to see how much it would be to do separately a couple of years ago, and just the mailing for a trifold brochure is $4,000. So this is an extremely economical way to do this. And I talked to the Parks and Rec department, and they are completely in support of us continuing that. So I budgeted the same amount in order to do that. Insurance, that's the insurance on the building. And that did go up a slight amount this year. Electric, we just kind of go from one year to the next and look at how much we did last year, and it's stayed pretty stable over the course of the last several years. Heat, we're going to hope for mild winter, but you just never know, and 10,000 seems to get us from beginning to end without too much trouble. Sewer, we have a water line that says 0, and then we have a sewer line, and we used to separate out the two, but because those numbers are so tiny, it doesn't make sense to separate them out. It just means that I end up doing budget adjustments trying to get them to match up, because it's hard to guess how much it's going to be. So we eliminated the water line, just put everything under water, sewer, and charged it out of the same line. We've actually done pretty well cutting back. Last year we did really well because it was so wet. We turned off the water. I think I had the sprinkler on for 2 weeks last year out of the entire season. This year it cost more, and we were a little bit over budget, so it's hard to guess. But we try to look at from one year to the next. Building and grounds maintenance. For the last several years, we've been able to manage with about $20,000. That includes all of the cleaning products and paper supplies, toilet paper, paper towels, that kind of thing. Our custodian does an excellent job of pinching pennies, so I give her a lot of credit. We always manage to stay in budget to the best of our ability there. And it also includes all minor repairs. And sometimes what happens is if we have an unexpected repair, something we thought we were going to work on might not get done. So we have to kind of pick and choose. For example, we really could use new rubber mats out in front of the library, but we had a plumbing issue, so we paid for the plumbing issue, no new mats. So we just kind of make it work. Equipment maintenance, that's the maintenance on the service agreements on our copiers, on our self-checkout stations, on Polaris, which is our integrated library system. That's the software that maintains the database of all of our patrons and our collection. So that can be pretty pricey, but that's stayed pretty stable over the course of the past several years, just a few percent up here and there. We've been able to negotiate with companies to kind of keep those costs down. Refunds and rebates, that's when the assessor has people come in and through board of review ask to have their assessed values reduced. And if they do successfully reduce their values, we have to reimburse that money that we had collected in taxes. So we do try to put a pot of money aside so that we have that money available so that we're not taking it out of fund balance. In this particular situation, I believe in 2012, it was about $12,000. I called her and tried to get her to kind of estimate. She says it's almost impossible because they never know. She has to kind of calculate it based on how many people have applied to go to board of review, and then what's the percent chance that those people are going to be successfully reduced at some amount, and how much that might be. And so that's a really tough one, but this number has been pretty good for us for the past couple of years. So we're just going to try it again and hope for the best, and hope that we're not reimbursing too much, just so that we don't have to get into fund balance to do that. Equipment. In other township departments, equipment means lawnmowers, vehicles, that kind of thing. In our situation, it means copiers, computers, monitors, that kind of thing. We have gutted this budget over the course of the past several years, 50% each year for 3 years in a row. The state requires us to have a 3-year technology plan, meaning how are you going to maintain your public computers and what is your plan for that. You have to have a plan. Our plan has not been funded since 2009. So everything in our building is at capacity according to our technology plan. But unfortunately, we don't have the money to fund that. So essentially what we do in the equipment budget is the money that we need in order to fend off emergencies in technology. So if we have a monitor that dies, if we have a battery backup that dies, that's pretty much all we're doing at this point. Where you see another big drop is the books and the audiovisual. And essentially what I did with this number, there is the Quality Services Audit Checklist, which is a volunteer program put out by the Library of Michigan. And essentially what it does is it allows libraries to measure where they stand in comparison to other libraries throughout the state. There are 3 levels of success. There is the essential level, there is the enhanced level, and there is the excellent level. We have not gone through the program because the first thing you have to have, the very, very top of the list is you have to have a library board. And we just got our first library board since the 70s. So I will be bringing that forward, and we will hopefully be going through that process in the next couple of years and see where we stand. But it is a great way to measure. And up until this point, we've been using the enhanced level for our book budget, and that means that we dedicate 10% of our operating budget toward collections. Unfortunately, we can no longer afford to do that, so I've taken us down to the essential level, which is 7% of the total operating budget.
What is the excellent level?
The excellent level, I believe, is 12.
12%.
Okay. Yeah.
I do see that since 2008, we essentially cut it by 2/3 on this.
Yes, huge drops in that budget. Unfortunately, when you talk about the library's budget, where we have the biggest problem is there are certain costs that are fixed, and the library doesn't have a lot of costs that are flexible. For example, it costs what it costs to heat the building. It costs what it costs for electricity. Those are the kinds of things. You can only do so much to save in those areas. The only real places that we have where we can make cuts are staff and programs and collections. And we're to the point where we're funding the building, but everything that makes the building wonderful is what's getting cut now. So we're just downsizing everything else. On a brighter note, the situation that we're in has brought out a lot of people wanting to make donations. It has brought in a lot of volunteers, so we're getting a lot of assistance, which is very, very nice. You can't run a library on bake sales, but you can definitely maintain one for some period of time that way. So we're gonna hang on for as long as we can. Any questions? Okay,
No, very clear.
very good. So what it gets down to on the very last page, just a reminder, these are the revenues, and at the bottom is the total. And where I got by the time I budgeted all this in is about $7,728 over budget, considering we were $104,000 shorter than last year. That was pretty good. You have two different options of what you can do. You can send it back and tell me where you'd like to see that $7,720 come from, whether it be from one of those areas, staffing, programs, or collections. Or we could potentially dip into fund balance and put that $7,700 from fund balance into the budget.
Is there any order in which this should be addressed?
I think what you would need to do, if you wanted to, tell me what changes you wanted me to make, we could talk about those first. If you wanted to take it out of fund balance, I think what you would need to do is make a motion to take the $7,728 out of fund balance, to add to the 2013 budget, approve that, and then we would go through the motion of passing the resolution and take the roll call based on the amendment to the budget. As amended.
Okay, comments or questions on this area?
Oh, the last piece that you need to know, I almost forgot. The last thing that you do need to know is how much we have in fund balance. And this teeny tiny little screen. It is $219,569.26. So. It's not a huge fund balance, but there is some.
Well, it appears to me.
No, but it's not a huge, go ahead, Lynn, I'm sorry.
That's all right. It appears to me you've done a wonderful job of finding anywhere you could to cut. And you have 219,000 in fund balance. 7,000 isn't a huge amount to take out. I think it makes sense at this point to consider that.
The other thing to consider is you can go ahead and take it out of fund balance and put it into the budget. One of the things that I have found with our staff is that we are amazing at pinching pennies over the course of time. So what could happen is by the end of the year, we might be able to find some savings by the end of 2013, at which point any money we don't spend would just go right back into fund balance.
So it may not end up costing us.
So it may not end up costing that much. The other alternative is to tell me to make the cuts, and then I'll come back at the end of the year probably looking for budget adjustments and asking you to take money out of the fund balance. So you can kind of do it either way. It will go back into the fund balance if we don't spend it, and quite honestly, we have an extremely frugal staff, so the likelihood is we'll probably get to the end of the year and hopefully.
Well, and those things you don't have control over, it may
Yeah.
not be as much as what you think they're gonna be.
Yeah.
You estimated conservatively, I think. But I agree, I feel comfortable with taking it from the fund balance, rather than more
Right.
cuts. For right now.
I'm in agreement. Do we have a motion to that effect?
I move that we take the difference of $7,728 from the fund balance to put into the budget for 2013.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any other commentary or questions about that? Okay, if not, I'll call the question. Those in favor of transferring the $728, is that right? From the fund balance to balance the 2013 cuts that we've made, add that to our budget. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Now, I will accept a motion on the budget itself.
Approve it.
Yes, number 2.
Okay, I move that we approve the resolution establishing the Clarkston Independent District Library budget for 2013.
Is there a second? Second. Will we call the roll, please?
Ms. Elkin?
Yes.
Mary Hamburg?
Yes.
Kevin McCartney, absent. Allison McFadden Keesling.
Yes.
Jean Wilson.
Yes.
Marilyn Pomeroy.
Yes.
Kay Robertson.
Yes.
Okay, so the 2013 budget is approved, and I also want to commend you for making the cuts as judiciously as you could.
Not on that.
No. Okay, the next item in the agenda is the Section 125 cafeteria plan for our employees. So would you like to address that issue?
Just in a nutshell, a cafeteria 125, I don't understand the name of it, but the fiscal consultant handles that for me. Essentially, what it is it's a method by which we can allow for pre-tax payroll deductions for our employees' health care contributions. And you have to have the policy in place, you have to have an agreement. What we have, this very lengthy document, was drafted by the financial consultant. She has made sure that it is up to date with all the current laws. And it is set up in such a way that we have enough flexibility that should we want to offer additional benefits that the employees might need to contribute to, it's all in there. And this is something that once you have passed a resolution, it goes into the library's file as a policy, and we review it. She said every 4 or 5 years you want to pull it out and have the financial consultant or the accountant look over it and just make sure none of the laws have changed and that we're still okay. But by passing this tonight, it allows for the employees to pay for their health care contributions, for AFLAC, for contributions into their retiree plan. All those things can be done pre-tax, which is a nice savings for the employees.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? We've had this in our packet, so all board members have had a chance to look this over and ask questions. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, if not, I'll ask for a resolution to approve the Section 125 cafeteria plan.
I move to approve the resolution establishing the Clarkston Independence District Library Section 125 cafeteria plan.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution to establish this 125 cafeteria plan. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll call the question. Please do a roll call.
Michelle Ginn,
Yes.
Mary Hubbard,
Yes.
Kevin McCartney, absent. Allison McFadden Keesling,
Yes.
Jean Wilson, Marilyn Pomeroy,
Yes.
Kay Robertson, yes.
Okay. Now to the item that took a lot of time. You have to think about this for a moment. The approval of the library board meeting schedule for 2013.
We were able to put together, you do have to do this by resolution, and it does need to be done before the end of the year. We put together sort of a tentative schedule. Monday seemed to be the night that everybody liked. We decided 6 o'clock worked for everyone. So I put it in there. There were a couple of dates that were problematic from our original discussions of this. May 13th, I did not realize that there's going to be a petting zoo that night. Yeah, and the meeting room is the indoor backup plan. So unless you want to share the space of your brains with the sheep, I thought you might want to reconsider and use the 20th. I didn't know how other people felt about the 20th. And then the other one that we ran into a problem on when we had discussed November 11th, and I had not noticed on the calendar that is Veterans Day. We are closed that day. So you could do the 4th or the 18th. Those dates are available. Or if you wanted to consider any others, I do have the library's calendar up on the screen, and I can go ahead and you need to do that.
I'm thinking maybe we should choose the 4th in case something comes up, then we always have.
We'll have the
Move it back a little bit.
Yep, sounds reasonable. Okay. Okay. And then the 20th is okay for me? Good. What is it?
And the idea behind this schedule is that Monday is a day in which the library is open until 9, and that seems to work well. It would be Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday that we would try to fill these, so Monday was our goal. All right, I'll accept an motion.
Could we read out the dates out loud? Just for the-
Yeah, would be fine.
Okay. So the tentative schedule would be Monday, January 7th at 6 p.m., Monday, February 25th at 6 p.m., Monday, March 18th at 6 p.m., Monday, April 25th at 6 p.m., Monday, May 20th at 6 p.m., Monday, June 17th at 6 p.m., Monday, August 19th at 6 p.m., Monday, September 16th at 6 p.m., Monday, October 14th at 6 p.m., Monday, November 4th at 6 p.m., and Monday, December 9th at 6 p.m.
The other thing is, I think you said Monday, April 25th, but Monday, April 15th.
I'm sorry, Monday, April 15th. Thank you.
And did we jump July?
Oh, I did. Oh, my goodness. I wonder what the July date was. You know what I had on the screen?
I apologize.
I missed a month.
We talked,
Perhaps I've decided you don't want to meet in July.
Yeah, I'm thinking
we
might
talked,
not,
we
but-
said some boards sometimes.
That was
don't.
unintentional, though. We did pick a July date. Sorry about
We
that.
did.
It always ends
We felt we could July 15th.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
And that's a Monday.
Yes, Monday, yep.
Okay.
All right. That was fun. What is the, how long is it, well, if you're going to call a second meeting, how early does it have to be
It
posted?
needs to be posted 18 hours in advance.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And should they decide to cancel a meeting?
You can cancel a meeting, yeah, whenever necessary. You can cancel it, for example, you could cancel it the night of, should you not have a quorum. So, and you can reschedule, for example, like we did with December 6th, we rescheduled it, we gave at least 18 hours notice. Now, in this case, because there was a public hearing, there had to be a week-long lead in, there had to be a public notice in the paper that was up, that was for.
That's why I was asking.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen unless you're doing a public hearing. If there's no public hearing, that's only 18 hours.
Okay. Okay, do we have a motion on the library board meeting schedule?
I move to approve the resolution setting the 2013 library board meeting schedule.
I'll second.
Okay, any comments or questions? Now that we have July straightened out, and any other, anybody noticed anything else? All right, if not, those in favor of, yes, thank you.
Ms. Duggan?
Yes.
Miriam Bird?
Yeah.
Evan Markarian, absent. Elsa McFadden Kiesling?
Yes.
Steve Molson?
Yes.
Marilyn Pomeroy?
Yes.
Kay Robertson?
Yes. Okay, number 5, the approval, to approve hiring of library staff.
Essentially what happens in this situation, the Independence Township Library became the Clarkson Independence District Library on August 1st. During this transitional stage from August 1st to December 31st, the library employees were township employees leased to the district library. On December 31st, 2012, the township will terminate these employees so that the district library may hire them on January 1st, 2012. The library board is responsible for hiring all full-time employees, and in this case, because we have employees as of January 1st, we probably should hire the part-timers as well. So you do need to hire or approve the hiring of all of the library employees as of January 1st. What you have in your packet is a complete list of employees, except for any voluntary separations that took place prior to December 31st of 2012, and the rates of pay will remain the same. So just hire everybody at exactly what they were at.
With the exception of the two people that are.
Yeah, one that retired and one that resigned prior to that. They would become
So this is the hiring of the library staff in transition from township employees to becoming employees of the district library. Do we have a motion to approve this?
I move that we approve the hiring of full-time and part-time library staff at their current rate of pay effective January 1st, 2013.
It's been moved and seconded that the current employees be hired January 1st by the district library. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion is carried. The next item is vacation and sick time.
Okay, the Employee Benefits Committee has been working hard to set up a benefits package for the library employees. The next project the committee would like to tackle is creating an employee handbook. At this time, there is a union contract covering 3 employees and a non-union contract or handbook covering 4 employees, and the goal would be to merge the two and follow one simple plan for our small group. It's kind of hard to administer more than one plan. Until this can happen, the Employees Benefit Committee has addressed a couple of issues that must be determined right away, and what's on the table right now is vacation and sick leave. The current policies are outlined in the attached pages. It is recommended that employee vacation time be determined based on the current township seniority and accrual system, which is something that the library board did talk about at a budget workshop. A list of vacation time that each employee would be eligible for in 2013 is included. The committee recommends that adopting a non-union sick leave accrual system in which sick time is awarded at the beginning of the year would be what we would recommend. This provides ease of administration and tracking of this time. The amount of time accrued for non-union and union employees is the same. It's 96 hours for the year or 1 hour or 1 day per month. The way the non-union is accrued is 96 hours at the beginning of the year as of January 2nd, and you need to manage your time wisely. The union method is you earn that time over the course of the year, and it's very difficult to keep track of making sure that everybody gets their time in and the time out. So for ease of administration, it would be easier if it was all accrued at the same time. Also in this particular agenda item, in addition, because we are so short-staffed, we have an employee that was unable to use all of his vacation time by the end of the year. He has 7 days remaining. The township policy states that the employee will be paid out for up to 5 days. The alternative is for the department head and supervisor to determine if this time should be rolled into the following calendar year. Given our situation of still being short-staffed, rolling that many additional days into next year will likely only result in a similar situation in 2013. This employee is also, because of his seniority, getting an additional week of vacation this year. He's hit that. So he didn't use all of his time this year. He's not going to
have more next
He's going to have even more next year. So in this particular, I have spoken to him about it, and he basically said, at the board's pleasure, whatever. He actually offered to forfeit the time, and he didn't think that was fair. So in this particular situation, I would recommend proceeding with paying him out of, for the 5 days out of fund balance. He would lose those other 2. No board action is required to do this, but if, because this would be a different fund balance, we would prefer to roll the time into next year. He is willing to do his best to be more diligent about using it in a timely fashion and not getting to the end of the year and not have enough time. There are not enough days left of the year for him to use up his time. So that would be at the board's pleasure, whichever you prefer. Lastly, just something that I wanted to remind you about. The library employees will be terminated from the township on December 31st of 2012, and at that time, any employees with sick time remaining will be paid out by the schedule attached. We have 5 employees with sick leave balances that will need payout from the library's fund balance. We obviously didn't budget for that kind of payout. We didn't know at the beginning of the year when we wrote this budget that we would be doing this. So I will provide a cost at the January board meeting and request approval to make a budget amendment to fund that payment at that time. At this point, I have no idea how much it's going to be because we don't know how much sick time I'll be using in the next few weeks. I had an estimate, and I was going to give you an estimate, and I had somebody who was sick 2 days last week, and I was like, it's not. It's kind of pointless. I'm really going to try it. It's December. People get sick very easily this time of year. So
So we really have one employee with vacation time that one possibility is to move it into next year or to pay him from fund balance.
Yes.
Approximately, what do they earn for vacation time? Is that just their regular salary?
It's their regular salary time, and it would only be for the 5 days. So we're looking at about $1,100, I believe.
Okay, so that would be, so that is an issue we should take care of.
That's, there's no action needed unless you want to roll the time. If you want to roll the time, then you have to make the determination that you want to instruct them to roll the time. It will happen automatically because that's what township policy states, but you do have the ability to tell me to go to the township and say, we are going to allow him to roll it. So,
Otherwise, we'll just take care of it.
otherwise, it'll just happen on its own. But I wanted to give you that option because it's going to come out of fund balance, you know, what the
One way or the other.
We didn't budget
Let
for
it
it.
roll. All right.
Okay. What you do need to vote on in all of this is the sick time accrual schedule and the vacation schedule. So essentially, I can go over it a little bit with you. Essentially, on the first page of the packet is the township vacation accrual system for the non-union employee, or for the union employees. There's a little table that says from hire to 1 year, there's no vacation time. From 1 year through 5 years, you get 10 days. From 6 years through 10 years, there are 15 days. From 11 through 15, there's 17 days. And then the 3 employees that currently covers. And then for non-union, at hire, it's 10 days. After completion of 5 years of employment, it's 15 days. After completion of 13 years, it's 17 days. And after completion of, we don't think this anywhere near that goes. So, and then the 4 employees that affects. The Employee Benefits Committee does need to look at this. We have a wonky vacation schedule. Because essentially, until recently, no employees in the township got any vacation until after their first full year of work. So here you are trying to hire, for example, a library director or some library professionals, any professional staff with no vacation that first year. There are no other libraries in the area that do that. It's not a very generous system. The township corrected it in terms of non-union because they did hire an assessor and a director of Parks and Rec. And in the negotiation process for those positions, realized that you cannot hire a department head with 0 vacation. You're not going to get anybody who's going to come when they're leaving a job that they can have up to 3 weeks, and you're going to give them zip that first year. So overall, there's some corrections that need to be made here. But all of our staff have enough seniority that they're much further up into the schedule. So I've given you a list of the employees, what their township hire date is, their full years of service, and how many vacation days they would be eligible for based on this system.
So the only question is whether they're getting them back up.
Essentially what's on there are 2 pieces on the table.
Yeah.
Just essentially what I need you to do is approve that you're okay with this vacation calendar as is for 2013, with the understanding that the Employee Benefits Committee may come back with an amended policy for 2014. But for 2013, this is what we plan to use, so that those employees know on January 2nd exactly what they have without any question. And then the second piece is the sick time, and that is essentially what you're doing is you're overriding what the employees in the union would get, which would be this 1 day a month over the course of 12 months, and you're saying, no, everybody's going to get their 96 hours on January 2nd. For the sake of the people who administer this, Debbie and I, we're going to have to make sure that we know what's going on in this state.
So we're rolling these into one.
Yes, so it's basically what I'm asking you to do is kind of go over the whole package and then just approve the vacation and sick leave accrual schedule as presented, unless you have any amendments to it. So we did go over this in the Employee Benefits Committee, not the specific days, because we did have to calculate that after the last meeting, but I think everybody was kind of on board with where we were with that. So.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the vacation and sick leave accrual schedule, for 2013 as presented.
I'll second
Okay, are there any other comments or questions about the information in our packet? Okay, if not, I'll call the question. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is carried. Number 7, approve posting for a new adult services librarian.
As I said, our head of adult services did submit a letter of resignation. He had been out on disability and determined that he wanted to relocate. It is a critical position. It is budgeted. And the standard procedure is that the board give permission to post, and then after the selection process has been completed by the library director, the board reviews and approves the hiring of the individual selected. And should you so choose, you could potentially ask to have that person come in, so you could question them as well. But generally speaking, the way we've been doing it is that we go through the entire selection process, and then I'll bring forward that person's resume, all their qualifications, and make a recommendation to you, and then a proposed salary.
And once we approve this, you would post it ASAP or?
I will post it tomorrow morning.
Good.
How does this work for current employees, if they choose to want to move into this position?
They would apply for the position, and we would go through and review them just like we would anybody else, and then go through the entire interview process. So we don't necessarily have an internal, external, where internal happens first and external happens separately. We go through all the resumes and pick the most qualified candidate.
What's the process for doing that?
Essentially, we've done it a little bit differently each time. We haven't hired a lot of full-time, quite frankly, but usually what we do is I will post it, all the resumes come to me, I will form an interviewing committee, and generally speaking, in this particular situation, it would be myself, one of the other full-time librarians. I was going to propose maybe a library board member would like to sit in on that and be part of that process so that you can see how we're going through it. But then at that point, we'll kind of review it and go through the person that we think is most appropriate, potentially second interviews if that is necessary, and then bring forward the person that we think is most qualified.
Well, normally you just have two of you and,
Well, sometimes we've had as many as 3, but our staff is so small.
yeah.
When we hired for the head of teen services, the head of adult services and the head of children's services and myself did the interviewing. We could do that again, but literally we have such a small staff. I don't know if we can all be in the same room at the same time and still serve the library.
but you were allowed to do this without the township people before, right?
Yes, the HR director did her own interview after we had selected the candidate, just in her words, she has kind of a dry sense of humor in her words, just to make sure you didn't accidentally pick an axe murderer. But she did kind of finalize and make sure, and before we bring the person, we would call references and all of that. So it would be a complete
And
process.
Julie, when you post this, is there obviously a deadline?
There would be a cutoff. At this particular point, I haven't put a cutoff yet because I wasn't sure I didn't want to put a date on until we had determined that yes, indeed, we were going to want to post it. But I'll talk to the library staff and kind of get a feel for when we think we might be able to do interviews and then leave the posting up accordingly. So we like to leave it up as long as possible to make
It's
sure.
a difficult time to post one of these at Christmas.
Yeah, so it's probably, I'm thinking it's probably going to have to go until the end of the first week of January, just because we need to give people plenty of time. Although this is a time when postings do go out, because libraries have new budget years coming up and they're
Graduates,
Yeah.
your graduates.
yeah, exactly. When we posted for our head of teen services, and this was back in 2009, we had 54 applicants.
Oh, good.
Oh,
Yeah, and that's been a few years ago. So I anticipate that this will be another one of those situations where we will have quite a reader process.
And this is the posting. That's good.
How long was Brett with us?
He started January 2nd, 2006.
Post one.
I started in March, he started in January. Andrea also started in January of 2006, the three of us started about the same time.
As a retired librarian, it looks good to me.
Me too.
Yes.
Not retired,
As a working librarian.
But I would welcome it, if one of you wants to be a part of that selection committee, or obviously I'd be more than happy to have you join us.
Can we think about it?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the post for for a full-time head of adult services librarian.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Hey, any comment? ASAP, right?
Yeah.
Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. So, yes, please, as soon as possible.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. We have no other new business. So I'll accept and move to adjourn.
So move.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn at 7:02. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes. We are adjourned at 7:02.
Yes.